words matter. Words have a tremendous amount of power to harm or to do good. I think about some of the hurtful words that I've received in my life and how I still carry those with me, but I also still carry the compliments and the encouragement at the same time. So we cannot underestimate the power of words.
And really reaching out when someone does something that you're like, wow, it doesn't matter if you don't know them, right? Wow, that really affected me. Olivia has, and I'm working on mine right now for 2025, a vision board in her closet where she collects things that she, aspires to, but also, I mean, you can talk for yourself, but you have letters that people have sent you that she posts up there because you know what? They make you feel good, right? They remind you, like in days where you're not feeling good about something, you can look at that and say, wow, I made a difference there. I made a difference there.
Welcome to Her Unshakeable Confidence with dynamic mother-daughter duo Simone and Olivia Knego, where they discuss the secrets of transformation and how to build bold confidence and unwavering resilience. From intimate conversations with inspiring guests to sharing their personal journeys of triumph and challenge, Simone and Olivia create a supportive space where every woman is encouraged to rise above her fears and love the woman in the mirror. Tune into Her Unshakeable Confidence and join this special journey of connection and growth. It's like catching up with old friends who inspire you to be bravely and uniquely you.
Welcome to this week's episode of Her Unshakeable Confidence. I'm Simone Knego.
And I'm Olivia Knego.
And today we have a very special guest, Cathy McIntosh. Cathy is a sought-after marketing strategist who guides the fastest-growing faith-driven writers and professionals to multiply their impact through authentic connections with their audiences. Endorsed, again, I struggle with these words sometimes, endorsed by experts like Donald Miller and Dr. J.J. Peterson, Cathy helps authors get comfortable with marketing to experience the transformation from unknown to unstoppable. I love that. Cathy has a diverse author portfolio spanning multiple genres. Her debut novel, Redemption's Echo, is a heart-gripping tale that offers reader an authentic glimpse into the world of crime and justice. When Cathy isn't crafting compelling stories or guiding fellow writers to success, she often delves into the latest crime podcasts. They seem to be like the most popular, honestly, right? Always eager to unravel a mystery. With an insatiable curiosity, she enjoys learning new skills and embarking on exciting adventures, rarely shying away from what lies around the next proverbial corner. She and her husband relish the joys of living in Colorado, surrounded by the laughter and love of their children and grandchildren. Cathy, thank you so much for joining us today.
I am so excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I really want to dive into your novel, Redemption's Echo, because writing a novel is no small feat, right? Self-help book. Okay, it's
hard
still
enough.
hard to do.
Right.
But a novel is really a whole different bird. So what motivated you? Let's start with what motivated you to write it.
I would say it started with curiosity. Back even when I was a kid, you always say that I want to be an author someday. I want to write a book someday, when you're reading Little House on the Prairie and all of the books that you read when you're a kid. And my mom always supported that. She had that kind of same curiosity. And there were bits and spurts where she and I would try to write a book together. And that never went anywhere and really was not the way to do it. But just the way that she kind of spurred me on and gave me permission to try was a really big deal. And I put that dream away for quite some time when I started writing devotionals and magazine articles and business blogs and things that were much drier than fiction. And then I'm married to a guy who's been in law enforcement for about 40 years. And we were out on a day date one time because I've got to catch him when his schedule allows.
Yeah.
We don't have like a typical Friday night off usually. So we were on a day date and he gets a call from his detective lieutenant and they were investigating a homicide. And I just really felt this, what I call a divine inspiration, to pay attention, that this was what I was supposed to write about. And mind you, I've got 40 years of phone calls like that. It's not like this was the first one and I was just automatically intrigued. It was all of a sudden, oh my gosh, this is the one. And I literally knew nothing about this case. And it turned out to be this crazy, twisty, turny mountain road adventure where the ending was just far different than anybody ever imagined. So I was definitely inspired by a true story that I took and fictionalized and just kind of added a lot of years of history of different cases that have come together into this novel to present it to the world. And here it is. Kind of exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Olivia, do you think we should write a book together?
No.
So you're smarter than we were.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the podcast is great, but I think she's actually a much better writer than I am.
But I'm not a creative writer. I'm great at like practical writing.
It's different.
Yeah. I think the creative writing is really hard. And that's, I mean, I really give you credit for jumping into a novel because I think about stories inside my head all the time, but to be able to really follow through, go from A to Z with all parts of the story and keep the reader interested is really a big feat.
It is. And I think I've mentioned to you, I am StoryBrand certified in the marketing realm. And so we delve so much into what the different parts of the story and what makes the story captivating and what holds a reader's interest. And so this had kind of been an underlying tone for many years before leading up to this adventure. And it was just like, okay, I think I can do this because I use story every day and the marketing techniques, and just decided to go for it.
Yeah. So tell people about what being a StoryBrand certified guide is, because I've researched it, but I think a lot of our women out there won't know what that means.
Well, Donald Miller started writing memoirs and decided finally to take his story building ability and turn it into a marketing strategy. And he teaches that we can draw our business audience into a story where they can see themselves as the hero. They can see themselves winning the day with the ways that we help them. So a lot of businesses, when they put themselves out there, try to be the hero. They try to exert themselves as the expert and make the world think that they know all the things. And Donald is saying, no. We're about helping the reader, the viewer, the customer be the hero, and we're just there to guide them to their success and find success in their own journey, which is just kind of was in his original day a paradigm shift, and now it's kind of a marketing standard that this is what everyone's doing. So I am certified under Donald Miller, which means I have personally trained with him and through him, and just gleaned from his wisdom for a lot of years.
I think his story changes everything.
It does.
Right? I think that we can give people statistics all day long, but I truly believe what they connect with are the stories that we share. And I always love to say, because I think a lot of women out there don't believe that they have a story to tell. Everyone has a story to tell. So listening to this podcast, you have a story to tell, and it's so important that you share your story. Now, I'm not saying you have to go out and write a book, but I think that really understanding that your voice matters and that you can impact other people with the stories that you tell is so important.
Couldn't agree with that more. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So before this book, let's talk about other things that you've written.
So again, I am an inspirational faith-based author. So I've written a couple of different Bible studies that were self-published. I've written a slew of ebooks. And I wrote a business building book with a team from Fort Worth, Texas, that really speaks to nonprofits and how to get donors that last and how to attract the right donors to a nonprofit organization. So it's all over the board. It's just really a ton of blogging, a ton of magazine articles and devotionals and all that kind of work. But this is my first novel. It was definitely an experiment. Like I said, curiosity drew me into the mix and really led me to tell the story of a woman who was trapped in human trafficking through a family member, and ultimately lost her life. And then her sister became a police detective and ended up solving the cold case of her own sister's murder. So that's what Redemption's Echo is about.
Wow. I haven't read it yet, but I can't wait to read it because I feel like it sounds like it's made for a movie, honestly.
Yeah, it could be. I can envision it as a movie. That's a huge leap, but
right.
I could see it happening.
Yeah. I mean, again, talking about crime podcasts, and people love that. I mean, I don't know exactly why we're so fascinated. Maybe because we don't understand it. I mean, Liv, what do you think?
I think, I guess exactly that. We don't understand it. It's a completely different, separate world than our everyday.
It is. And I've talked to a lot of people about that and why you're attracted to true crime or semi-true crime. And a lot of it is women tell me that they want to be prepared and they want to
Mm.
imagine the worst so that they can keep their radar up and try to keep themselves safer. For me, it has a lot to do with putting pieces of a puzzle together and, starting with nothing and building it into something large. So there's just insatiable curiosity
Yeah.
about the crime realm, and I've got unique experience just having lived that wife of law enforcement and just heard all the stories for decades, and being able to draw on that wisdom and have at my disposal. I could ask my husband, I need to talk to a detective who knows about this and this. And he'd say, I know just the guy. Let's go talk to him. And it was just, this wonderful, perfect storm that came together to create this book.
Well, so let's tie it back to your the faith-based writing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you connect those pieces there?
That was a little bit of a struggle, let me tell
Mhm.
you. But what happened is my main character just has a Christian worldview. And so they're just little bits and spurts, and it's just who she is and the lens through which she sees the world. So it's really hard to call it a Christian book. It really covers some dark, horrendous things that go on in real life. And it's just seeing crime through the eyes of someone who really follows hard after God and understands that even when horrible things happen, he's still in the mix and he's still good. And that's kind of an underlying message of it, but not the prominent message of the book. So it was a little bit tough to juggle, but finally just decided, let's just do it as our family would do it and navigate it the way that the people I see navigate. And that's where we land.
Let's talk about marketing, because marketing a book, writing a book is very hard. Marketing
is.
a book is even
Harder.
more difficult. Yes.
Yes, it is.
So what tips do you have? What suggestions do you have? What has been successful for you and what has not been successful for you?
Sure. Social media has been a little less successful than I thought it might be.
Mhm.
I've really relied on my email list and honestly my personal contacts. So for me personally, because there is such a heavy law enforcement influence on this book, going to the law enforcement community and saying, hey, I wrote this book, I really intended to, put all of you in a good light and make you look out to be the heroes that you are.
Mhm.
That spurred some interest in that community. But I also feel that, again, relying on that email list and the relationships that you build online, as opposed to just broadcasting it out to a slew of strangers, makes all the difference. When we can be authentic and have connection and conversation instead of just advertisement, and you interrupt people where they are, and it's kind of annoying, they just want to shoo you away. But building the relationships is a much more effective way to market a book like this, and then allow one person who's read it and enjoy it to share it with his or her group of people, and then it starts to multiply and get bigger and bigger and bigger.
We talk about social media a lot on this podcast, and there's good and bad about
Yes.
it, right?
Yes.
And I have definitely found that you can put out the most amazing content and you're controlled by the algorithm,
Yeah.
or
We certainly are.
and it's amazing to watch some people that can completely go viral with something positive, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff that happens probably not is necessarily positive, but really watching how and thinking about how it works. I mean, that was a struggle for me too when I wrote my first book, and I thought, oh yeah, you write the book, that's the hard part. Not at all.
Mhm.
No.
It can be such a great book, but it's getting people to know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a different experience than I was expecting. And I'm wondering, do you feel the same?
I do. I absolutely do. One of the things that worked well for me was finding, this was really a think out of the box creative challenge for me, but finding a way to pair marketing with fiction writing, with storytelling, and bring it all together and benefit the cause of human trafficking. So,
Mhm.
as a StoryBrand certified guide, I started offering a package deal where I would give about a $6,800 marketing package for about $2,200. And with that, they would get 50 books. I would do their copywriting for them, and we would give a donation to Covered Colorado, which is the organization I'm supporting, where it's a local story, it's a local organization.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great way to get the word out, to help a nonprofit, who are the ones who particularly took advantage of this marketing program. But I was essentially doing the work for free, doing the marketing work for free, in lieu of those book sales, and leveraging their contacts and sending books out to 50 people that they knew. So to me, that was a really big, advantageous program to pull all the pieces of my world together into one funnel to accomplish a goal. But it took a lot of stewing and figuring out and reconfiguring, and finally landing on something that was going to work for a lot of different people.
So
Sorry.
the sales of your book support a nonprofit in your area?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Why did you decide to do that?
Well, when I wrote Redemption's Echo, again, the victim in the story was a trafficking victim. And to write a novel, I had to put myself into her shoes. I had to see the world from her perspective, and really mentally become a trafficking victim for a little while. And it ignited this passion in me to do more, to support survivors more. And so I started looking for an organization in my area, and I really had a hard time finding it. And sometimes you Google things and you don't find it, and somebody else says, well, I just Googled it and there it was. But I found a friend who knew of a person who knew of the husband of the woman who founded this organization. So it was a friend of a friend of a friend who said, I think this is what you're looking for. And sure enough, it was. So I literally cold called them. I said, I'm an author. I'm about to publish a book. I'd really like to support you. And they said, oh, we'd love to have your support. They did not know me from Adam. I was a stranger off the street, and they didn't know or trust me. And I totally understand that. So it started with, yes, you can support us through your book. And then I said, can I use your logo? Can I do some bookmarks? And they said, no, not so much. We haven't read the book. I said, okay, I understand, 100% understand. So I just let that go, and I just continued doing all the things that I do. And I started showing up to their events. I started actually getting involved, and not just saying I was going to get involved. And little by little, they started embracing the idea. And then when the book came out, I had several copies delivered to their organization, and then eventually saw that they sent out an email to their supporters saying, hey, there's this book. All of a sudden now they're starting to promote it as well. So it didn't start, that was not the motivation to begin with. Truly, the motivation was me wanting to support and get involved in a cause that was bigger than the book, bigger than myself. It's a worldwide situation that is just devastating and heartbreaking and horrible. So it's going to take a world of people to get it fixed.
I think as a mom, it's probably one of my biggest fears. And it's not that I think about it often, but then you see something on the news and then you're like, oh my gosh, like this could happen to anyone, right? It's not just, and I think the first time I really thought about it was that Liam Neeson movie, Taken. And that was just terrifying for me. Liv, did you ever see that movie?
No, but I know the premise.
Okay. It was just the scene at the airport where they share a ride together. And that was like the beginning of the end. And it's kind of like you can't try it made you have this feeling like you can't trust anyone. And that's not how life should be. But you do have to have this guard up all the time. And I think that a lot of people don't know the statistics, and I don't know exactly the statistics behind human trafficking, but it's a much bigger issue than we think, and it happens everywhere. I mean, Florida's huge for it.
Yeah. We tend to think it happens overseas. It happens in other lands, foreign countries, and it happens in our own neighborhoods. And the fact is, you don't even have to leave your house to be trafficked. There are stories that have come out and come to light since I've been involved with this, where teenagers are online meeting people that say they love them and that they want to marry them and do all the things for them. And here's money for a plane ticket. I'm going to fly you to Greece or to, somewhere in Europe. And the girls are literally on their way to the airport to get on the plane to go into this trafficking situation. And the parents call the police and say, she's gone and this is what's on her computer, and the FBI is involved, and now they're tracking this girl, and there's times when they're rescued right there at the airport, and no, you can't do this, and this is not the way to go, and there's times when the rescue doesn't happen, and off they go and never to be seen again. And it's heartbreaking and terrifying, and we cannot be too careful. We can't.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that movie scared the crap out of me.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
really made me rethink a lot of things. And I know it was just a movie, but still that
Sort of.
just that
Right?
right. I mean,
Right.
it's based on every movie is based on some kind of real story, right?
Mhm,
I mean,
mhm.
okay, maybe not some of the Disney movies, but in general, where do people get the ideas for
Right.
things? I mean,
Right.
they've heard it, they've seen it, it's been done before, and then they create a story out of it. And it is terrifying that
Mhm.
it could happen to anyone, anywhere. And yes, the idea of it happening from your inside your house, right? That the
Yes.
kids are, and that's why it's so important that we have these conversations with our children about the importance of really understanding what's real and what's not. And when it feels wrong, it is wrong.
Yes, for sure. One of the highest compliments I got for this book was from a woman I know, and I tried to write it with a very gentle brush. Um, when the trafficking incidents happen, you definitely know what's going on, but you're not invited into this graphic visual imagery. So again, it was just written with a very gentle hand. And she came up to me and she said, Cathy, I just want to thank you for writing a book that I can share with my early high school girls. I can share it
Mm-hmm.
with my middle school girls, because it's clean enough where they're not really assaulted with the words on a page,
Yeah.
Right.
but
Right.
yet they're made aware, and it's opening lines of communication, and it's opening talking points that we can share this information with our kids. And it's not even just daughters, right? It's daughters and sons. We're able to share it.
Yeah. I think across the board, I think that people tend to think it's just our daughters, but
Hmm.
I think it is across the board. I think it
Hmm.
doesn't matter.
Hmm.
And it's just we all have to be more aware and more careful. And we have an organization in Sarasota that definitely raises money for human trafficking victims and, really awareness about it, because
Hmm.
I don't think we talk about it enough. It's
Right.
something scary. We don't like to talk about the scary. We love to watch the
Yeah.
crime podcasts and the videos, but we don't
Mhm.
like to talk about it.
Right. But we
Live it.
must.
Is there, like, think about, like, with your friend group, do you guys, I mean, I know when you guys go out, you always stay together, but, like, has it ever been a conversation like this is a concern?
I mean, yeah, I guess like it's kind of just one of those things that's an inherent concern that you just don't speak about, and that's why you do everything as groups of people, and you don't go off by yourself, and you don't go off with the strange guy or girl offering you something. Um, I mean, being in Nashville, it's like a very big concern. Uh, it's a bigger city for that kind
Hmm.
of trafficking. So I don't know. It's just like unfortunate part of being a woman, or just kind of a person in the planet, but specifically a woman, is being
Hmm.
more aware of your surroundings. And like you mentioned earlier, Cathy, part of listening to these crime podcasts and reading the crime books is, okay, what's the worst case situation here, and what's the worst
Hmm.
case scenario? And it is like unfortunate that we have to think like that, but we do.
Hmm.
Um, and it might seem really drastic to some people, but I mean, if it's like an easy way to keep an individual safe or keep yourself safe, like why not do it?
Hmm. Hmm. Because we still have to live and function and breathe
Yeah,
and be out there and meet people. I mean, it's just
Life
what
is
we
meant to be
do,
enjoyed,
right? It's meant to be in
right?
community as well,
Yeah.
right?
It's just understanding that you don't always want to, you don't want to think the worst. You want to think the best of people,
Hmm.
but you also have to have a little bit of, a thought process of, okay, what if?
Hmm. Yep.
And I think that's kind of across the, I think it's kind of true with whatever we do now. It is a what if. I mean, I'm thinking back to when I was in high school, right before any kind of mobile phones and the internet, and worried about posting stuff, videos, and now it's like anything you do is out there forever. We
Mm-hmm.
talk to the kids about that all the time. And so I think that there's so much more exposure to things because of the internet in both good and bad ways, right?
Yes.
Because we can be more aware of things because we can research it, but we also, everything is in our face all the time.
What was more challenging for you? The actual writing of the content, or I guess writing the structure and, making sure all of the pieces go together? Because obviously the content of your book is in some aspect gruesome.
Mm-hmm. It was the structure for sure, and making sure that the flow was correct. And it took me about 7 years to write this book,
Oh, wow. Okay.
and about, I would say, 5.5 years of that was contemplating the plot line and just trying to get to a point to where it could be realistic and it could really happen like this. And, a lot of banter back and forth with my husband, and, what about this, and tossing ideas around, and no, that could never happen because of this or that, or so that part took the most time. And I feel like it was the most challenging. When I sat down and literally started writing, it was more about finding a rhythm in my day. So I would do my work all day long, and then I would end about 3 or 4 o'clock and then write until my husband got home. And then I'd cook dinner and put the stuff away, but it was just this really dedicated time of this is when I know I'm going to write. And once my fingers were on the keyboard, it really felt like it was natural because that firm outline was in place, and I knew where the story was going to go. But there were also times that I would be writing and literally an idea would just like magically come out of my fingers. Like I did not see that coming. This was not something I saw. But, and having to weave that in and make sure all the loose ends were sewn into the pattern and made cohesive, right? So that was definitely the harder part for me.
So the woman that this story was based on, does her family know that this story was based on her?
No, I have no way to even contact her. It's, and again, so fictionalized that it's not, it doesn't even really represent her anymore. It represents elements of her story that came to be. There was some trafficking involved in her situation. I turned it into a family member. It's very, very different, but very much inspired by what she had gone through. And it's just heartbreaking to see the way her personal story panned out. Just super sad. And that's kind of the faith element too, is one of the questions as I was just watching this case unfold and be solved and see how it all panned out, is asking God, where were you when this horrible, horrible stuff was going on? And it's not an easy question, but I really felt like that was the main question that I was supposed to explore. And one of the things that I tried to put into perspective. So the story is actually told mainly through the eyes of her sister. A big part of it's through the eyes of the victim. The rest of it's through the eyes of her sister, in an effort to show different perspectives from the same life and how her existence made such a difference. And it will make a difference for generations, whether she's on the earth for a long time or a short time. She was here and she mattered, and her life made an impact.
I think stories like this really make you think when we talk about religion, and we do have those questions. I mean, we're Jewish, but just in general, thinking about, okay, when all these bad things are happening, how do we feel about God? How do we understand how to balance it? Because I think a lot of times you feel like, well, okay, how could this even happen? How is this even possible? And I don't have the answer to that.
No.
But I just think that life is, right? I mean, we go through every day. We don't know what to expect. And that I think for a lot of people, when situations like this happen, they do lose their faith.
For sure.
And again, I haven't been through a situation like this, so I haven't really thought about it from that perspective, but I can understand that if you've gone through something like this, how difficult it is to keep your faith.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And, God is God, and he does not make the horrible things happen, but he is with us when they do happen. And that's my reconciliation. It's my human
Mm-hmm.
reconciliation of how this all comes together, that we are not alone when the bad things happen, and we have someone at our side. But we have sin in the world, and sin is sin.
Yeah. And it, again, we look around and see all of the bad things that can happen, and it makes you think. It makes you like, okay, what are we doing wrong? What are we doing right? How do we move
Right.
forward? And so I think really a book like this makes you really think about that. And I love the connection to Christianity and faith. And let's talk a little bit more about the authors that you work with. So with StoryBrand, to really talk about, like, how do you help people? How do you coach them through what they want to put out in the world?
Mm-hmm. Generally, I coach them. The main primary focus is your reader. If I'm talking to writers, your reader is the hero. You want to help them accomplish their goals through, especially when it's a nonfiction book, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've written a nonfiction work to help someone, so let's help them. Let's not make you the hero. Let's make them the hero of their own story and present you as the guide. And Donald Miller says all the time, we as the writers play the role of Yoda, to where we're helping Luke Skywalker find his way. We're saying, I'm several steps ahead of you, and I can help you help you avoid some of the mistakes I've made, so that you can have a faster, quicker, healthier journey to your ultimate destination. That's really the plot of it. And when we can talk to a reader in a way that helps them know that we understand the problems and the challenges that they face, because we've gone through them too, it gives us empathy, it gives us authority, and they can look to us and go, she gets me like nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
So our messaging is really about helping that reader feel like you have read their mail, you know what's going on in their head, and you can put words around things that they've only conceptually thought about. They've never had a way to describe those things. And now they see that you've put words on a page for them. They feel like somebody finally understands me like nobody else has. That's the ultimate goal in connecting with a reader.
And that's a really big gift, because
it is
that to make the reader the hero of what you've written, I think, is always a challenge, right? Because there's a fine line of saying too much about yourself. Same thing like with coaching, right?
Yes.
You want to be the listener, and then at times you feel like you really have to add something in, because you know that it could be beneficial. Mm-hmm. So when you're talking about yourself. And so I think the same is true in storytelling, like telling a story about yourself, but being able to connect it back to the listener, to the reader, so that they can feel like, oh, I could see myself in that situation. Or if I did that, I could see that it would make a difference in my life.
Yes, without question. Without question. And honestly, it's why we listen to podcasts like this. If you can help me with my confidence, it's probably because you've come from a place where you had to struggle with your confidence.
Right.
And it makes me feel understood and seen and heard. And yes, I'm going to listen, because these ladies get me and they know exactly what I'm feeling.
So let's switch gears now, because you brought up confidence. So let's talk a little bit about confidence. And really, let's start with what does confidence mean to you?
Confidence to me means, and again, I come from a faith perspective, knowing that it's okay to be curious and to try new things and to fail forward. This is going to sound a little bit cliche, but it's okay to make mistakes publicly and know that I'm going to live through it. And it's going to make me stronger, and I can go do the next thing now because I learned from the last thing. That really adds to my confidence and the ability to say, yes, I'm going to try that. I'm going to go for it and just see what happens.
It's embracing your failures. I think that we too often shy away. We think, oh my gosh, our fear of failure is so much greater than our desire to make a difference, that we don't know how to move forward. And I'm like, embrace those failures. That's how you learn. Like,
yes.
And I think today I was recording some videos and I was like, okay, these are kind of ridiculous, but you know what? I'm putting them out there, whatever,
Good for you.
know? And If 2 people watch them, great. If 200, even better. But
Yes.
it's how we have to do things, and I think that we shy away from that so often. And I look at, I don't know, Liv, I think that your generation is maybe a little bit better about it. I don't think you're as afraid to fail.
Yeah,
Are
I guess. I don't think people in my generation, I don't know, think of failure in the same way. Um, and like, I don't know, we didn't fail a lot as kids, which I guess is, some people say is a good thing, something people say is a bad thing. But I think now it does make my generation like a little bolder. Um, because you're gonna get a participation trophy no matter what, so might as well speak your mind.
Yeah, but do you feel like it's still the case that you're going to get a participation? I mean, you're not getting one in law school, that's for sure. But I
No,
think,
but I think like that mindset is still there.
yeah,
Like you're gonna find your people no matter what. You're gonna like there's I don't know. I feel like there's more of a safety net, whether that's just emotionally or mentally, or if there's physically, a community around you that people are my age are more willing to take leaps.
yeah, I see it both ways because I feel like the whole participation trophy is sets kids up for really struggling later because they've never learned how to fail and never learned to know have never understood that failure is a good thing, because if you're rewarded for everything you do no matter what, I mean, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, maybe that is the way to see it, is that if you're rewarded for everything you do, then you're going to keep trying whatever, because failure is
Yeah,
really
I
not,
mean,
doesn't even happen.
I think it's one of those issues that's not really just like black or white.
Right.
Like, I don't think you should reward a kid for every behavior, but I also don't think you should only reward a kid when they're winning or when they don't fail, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah, I hear you. I watched a video today. Okay, again, just random. I'm trying to figure out how to do a reaction video. You guys are going to laugh at me, but we see these things on social media where they watch a video and then they talk about the video. And a video I saw today was a woman, well, actually, I think both parents, they were in Walmart, and the girl just like, she's probably like 8 to 10 years old. She just started destroying everything and they just watched her do it. They like didn't do anything. She's like breaking bottles and throwing stuff all over the place. And it's like, okay, why? I don't understand. But
Mm-hmm.
again, the idea of saying to your child, like, this is not okay. And I don't know, does that have to do with failure? Probably not really. But I was just thinking about
No,
that, how
I don't think
that,
so.
yeah, I was just thinking about how that, I mean, I think I'm connecting it back to the rewarding everything, right? The participation
Yeah.
part. But yeah,
I mean, I think like failure and confidence do go hand in hand, but and I guess yeah, you need to experience failure to like understand confidence, because otherwise, at least for me, the way I understand it to be, it would just kind of be blind confidence, and that can also be like a double-edged sword.
so let's talk about confidence and writing,
Oh
because
yeah.
that's a
And
really interesting thing.
just to premise this, you say all the time, Mom, that I'm a great writer, and that's probably the skill like that I have the least confidence in. Even though I
Mm.
do like objectively the best in my classes in writing, anytime I sit down to write, I can have like a complete lack of confidence.
So, Cathy, I'd love to hear what say to writers when they struggle with that. Like, am I good
Yeah.
enough? Is this really the right thing? And
I think we're all good enough. And I think that we all have a different tone of voice, and a different writing voice. So and again, this goes back to authenticity. You don't want to write to sound like someone else. So
Mm-hmm.
write to sound like yourself. Again, we talk about what people say about our writing. And someone once said to me, Cathy, I can almost hear your voice talking to me when I read something you've written. That's what we're after. It's exactly what we're after. So it's my slang, it's my contractions or not. It's my voice. It's how I would literally speak to someone who is sitting having coffee with me. That's what you're after. It's not about being polished. We used to really, in high school, when I was in high school a million years ago, It was about formal writing and don't use a contraction and make sure your periods and your sentences are full. And now it's fragments and it's just conversational, and it's just more real and more authentic than it's ever been. You want to be clear. Clarity is a huge asset to any writing style, but you do absolutely want to be yourself, and that's the most important piece. And that generates confidence. Practice generates confidence. And I think too, one other way to look at it's not about winning or losing. It's about how much effort you put into something. And if you can say to yourself, I really put in a great effort today doing this or that, making videos or, writing a blog post, whatever it is, I can feel good about the effort that I put into that. That builds a tremendous amount of confidence.
Yeah, I think sometimes people have this misconception of when they're writing that they need to write in a specific way. And maybe it's because how I grew up, same kind of thing. My writing in elementary, middle, high school, you had to follow a certain format and you couldn't just be.
Yeah.
And I do think writing now is about the authenticity. That's the way you connect. I knew that I did good with my first book when one of my close friends said to me, I'm reading this and I hear you inside my head.
Yes.
And right. And that's what you want. You want
That's
it to be you. I don't write fancy. I write like I speak. And I think sometimes authors might kind of feel like that's not the right way to do it because, it's not good enough. But it is good enough. That's exactly what you want.
Yep, without question.
And I do think the practice thing is important. It's just like anything else. The more you write, the better you feel. The more you speak, the better you get at it. The more podcasts you do, the better you get at it. The more people that you can positively affect in their lives. That's why I love doing what we do, because I do think that you can make such a difference with both the spoken word and the written word.
Agree. Absolutely agree. Words matter. Words have a tremendous amount of power to harm or to do good. I think about some of the hurtful words that I've received in my life and how I still carry those with me. But I also still carry the compliments and the encouragement at the same time. So we cannot underestimate the power of words.
And really reaching out when someone does something that you're like, wow, it doesn't matter if you don't know them, right? Wow, that really affected me. Olivia has, and I'm working on mine right now for 2025, a vision board in her closet where she collects things that she, aspires to, but also, I mean, you can talk for yourself, but you have letters that people have sent you that she posts up there because you know what? They make you feel good, right? They remind you, like in days where you're not feeling good about something, you can look at that and say, oh, wow, I made a difference there. I made a difference there.
Yes. When you
We
can
don't give
really
ourselves
get in
enough
touch
credit.
with your why. Yeah. Why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the things that we're doing. And so for the woman out there that's listening to this, like, you're making a difference in your world, and keep using your voice, keep using your words, because that's how we change the world.
Yes.
So Liv, it's calendar time.
No, it's not. I want to hear Cathy's the best advice a woman in her
Oh
life
my
has.
gosh. Thank you for keeping me on track. I almost forgot that one.
Best advice I've ever received. It was from I would call her my mentor. She is just a precious, precious woman in my life. And I was kind of rant about one of my teenage daughter one day, and I was like, she's wearing her holy jeans to church, and she shouldn't wear the. And she looked at me and she said, why could she wear something to school that she wouldn't wear to church? Why are there two different standards? And it was so gentle and kind, and I made it sound really abrupt and kind of harsh, but it wasn't. The delivery was just sweet and soft. And what her message was to me was, be authentic, be who you are in public, the same person you are in private. And I have just taken that and run with it. And I hear that in my head so often, that I don't want to be two different people. I want to be one good person.
I really like that.
Yeah, I do too. That's a good thing you asked the question, Liv.
See how good.
Look at me.
Yep,
Look at me.
yep.
Oh, forgetting what I'm doing here. Okay, now, Liv, it's time for your calendar.
Willingness is a true beauty that only you can generate.
Willingness is truth, a true beauty only you can generate. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I think that we have to decide what we want, what we're willing to do, right? If we're talking about writing, do you really want to write the book? If you're willing to do it, you got to push through and keep doing it. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We always have sometimes they truly connect her calendars. Other times it just makes you think. I think this one is just making me think about, am I willing? What am I willing to do? So very good. So Cathy, it was so nice having you on the podcast today. So please tell everyone listening where they can find you.
Certainly.
And where they can find your book.
I am just thrilled to be here. My book, you can find it on Amazon. It is Redemptions with an apostrophe, so that slows some people down. You can also find it on my website, CathyMcIntosh.com. And then I am most active on Instagram for social. So it's at Cathy McIntosh Coach.
And we'll have everything in the show notes so that you can buy her book, go out and buy her book, share it with your friends.
I would love that.
And keep following her because she is changing the world one word at a time.
Very nice. So such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us on this week's episode of Her Unshakeable Confidence. Always remember, you are unshakable.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to Her Unshakeable Confidence with Simone and Olivia Knego. We hope this episode has made your day just a little bit brighter and given you the inspiration you need to confidently go about your week. Always remember to be authentically you. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss an episode. And feel free to connect with them on Instagram at Simone Knego and at Olivia Knego. Till next time.